de partenariat avec, avec les peuples autochtones, dont ces projets-ci. Madame.
Bonjour, M. Carney,
Bonjour.
du Marquis de la Presse. Vous venez d'accuser M. Poilevre de vouloir utiliser la clause non-obstant pour s'attaquer au droit à l'avortement, mais M. Poilevre a explicitement dit qu'il ne le ferait pas. Donc, pourquoi cette accusation?
Oui, c'est une accusation, mais ce n'est pas une accusation, c'est un fait. C'est un fait. Il veut ignorer la Constitution de notre pays, des droits et libertés de tous les Canadiens et Canadiennes. Il veut ignorer, supprimer une décision du Cour suprême. Et j'ai dit, OK, on commence là et on finit où? Ça, c'est la question. Ça, il y a une raison pour laquelle c'est le job, à mon avis, c'est le job du Premier ministre et du gouvernement fédéral de défendre le charte des droits et libertés. I said that Mr. Poilevre has decided to ignore our Constitution, to override our Constitution, to ignore and override a decision of the Supreme Court. And the question is where you start, isn't where you start, but where do you finish once you start doing that? It is the responsibility, in my opinion, of the Prime Minister of Canada, of the federal government, to defend the fundamental rights of Canadians and the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, not to override it.
Mais ce qui est un fait aussi, c'est que M. Poilevre a affirmé qu'il ne le ferait pas. Donc, juste peut-être faire la distinction là-dessus. Mais la question de suivi, c'était sur les positions de vos candidats, de vos députés. Vous savez que M. Trudeau n'acceptait pas au sein de la députation des députés qui étaient en faveur de l'avortement. Quelle est votre position là-dessus?
Je suis convaincu que c'est leur responsabilité, comme je viens de dire. C'est plus négociable. Il y a un droit fondamental de l'avortement ici au Canada. C'est le job du Premier ministre de défendre le charte. Et c'est tout. Hein.
Oui, mais est-ce que des candidats...
Je ne suis pas... OK.
Est-ce que des candidats contre l'avortement peuvent être au sein de votre parti, peuvent se présenter?
Il n'y en a pas. D'accord.
Your platform talks about Buy Canada measures and government procurement as a response to U.S. tariff threats and actions. The Globe reported this morning that on the issue of cloud computing and data storage, the government is planning to lock in for 25 years an arrangement with several U.S. multinationals on that, and that this has raised some concerns from other companies, and this is expressed in government documents. Do you share that concern, and are you planning any action to kind of reduce the federal government's reliance on these large U.S. tech giants to just deliver government services here in Canada? Yeah,
it's an interesting. Thank you for the question. Look, my government will undertake a comprehensive review of government procurement, for several reasons. First and foremost, value for money and the effectiveness of that. Secondly, and I won't go into all the details, I spent a day on it, on defense procurement and being more effective and having a bigger impact domestically in Canada, being more rapid given the rising security needs, but also with respect to your question in terms of having maximum economic impact, buying Canadian where possible, or having a strategy that develops an ability to buy Canadian. So we have it in defense as we're building out with Europe on Rearm Europe. Again, a bigger discussion we should have. I don't think there's been enough focus on the progress we've made there. But with respect to technology, we have many strengths in this area, including in artificial intelligence, intelligence infrastructure, data infrastructure. And the question is, how do we strategically develop this as a country? How do we go from where we are today, which is too high dependence on U.S. providers, to a more balanced approach, greater diversification, including greater domestically. So you've asked a very fundamental strategic question. I share the strategic objectives of that, and it's it is an important element of our economic strategy.
About your platform and the bottom line. So under Jean Chrétien and Paul Martin, the Liberal Party took a lot of pride in focusing on balancing the budget, and when we
Yeah.
balance keeping it there. I think a lot of people were kind of hoping that your leadership would mark a return to that focus for the party. That doesn't seem to be the case in the platform. There's no reference to ever balancing the budget, and you are suggesting you will walk away from the fiscal anchor that the government stated just as recently as December, which was to keep the deficit below 1% of GDP. So what do you say to Liberals and Canadians who are disappointed to see that direction?
Well, this is a fundamentally different approach. This is an entirely new government. It's a fundamentally different approach. Okay, first thing. It is an approach that does two things. First, it gets government spending under control. So if you go back to the previous government, this spending was growing at 9%. We're going to grow spending over the course of the next 2 years, or 4 years, sorry, at 2%. 9%, 2%. Huge shift in terms of control on spending, bearing down on spending, getting that operating spending balanced over the course of the next 3 years. So there's a very clear, choice that is here. One meets the moment, which is ours, and the other, well, given that that was his approach to COVID, that was his approach when he was 17 and writing his essay about when he wanted to be Prime Minister, that's his approach for any moment.